Hey there! So I just finished making a dress from a pattern by one of my favorite YouTubers, Rosery Apparel. It's the Hazel Dress, and it's the first time I tried her patterns, and I thought I would like to show you how it went for me and what is my overall experience from using her pattern for the first time. And so without further ado, let's get started. So Rosery Apparel sells both digital and physical patterns, and I bought the digital one, which comes in a print-at-home version and also a copy shop version, and I got it printed at my local copy shop. I measured the pattern to figure out my size because I wanted this dress to be rather close-fitting and I wasn't sure how much ease is included. Then I traced my size and cut it out. I planned to make a toile for the bodice first, so I traced only the main bodice pieces and the strap. I made the toile and I didn't film it because I figured I'd just show you how I did the final version, but I wanted to show you the fitting part. I had just one issue with it. It was gaping a bit in the underarm region, so on one side I pinned it at the side seam and it seemed to solve the problem, so I just transferred the new seam placement to the pattern pieces and cut the excess off, and then traced the facing pieces and made sure they matched. Then I traced the pocket as well, but I decided not to trace the skirt pattern because it's just a huge rectangle, so I can just draw it directly on my fabric and not waste so much paper. And so it was time to start making the actual dress, so I grabbed my fabric, which is just cotton by the way, and I started pinning all the pieces. As you can see, kinda last minute I decided to lengthen the bodice by 1 centimeter. The skirt pieces I measured and then ripped the fabric. I used the whole fabric width for the front, which is a bit less than the pattern called for, and I measured the 2 back pieces. The pattern called for some interfacing as well, just for the facing pieces. And these were all my freshly cut pieces, and I proceeded to mark all the notches and darts. I pinned and sewed all the 6 darts, and yes, I backstitched at both ends of the darts instead of tying the threads up, which is a no-no. I pressed the darts, and while I was there I also interfaced the facing pieces and pressed the straps the same way you would make a bias tape. Then I serged the bottom edge of all the facing pieces and I top stitched the straps on both sides using the same method as I always use, which is moving the needle to the left and using the center of the presser foot as a guide for the edge of the strap. I pinned the straps on the front of the bodice, measuring 1 cm from the edge because that's the seam allowance and I wanted the straps right at the edge. And I placed the facing on top, right sides together. I used a lot of pins because why not, and I marked 1 cm from the edges to know where to turn my needle because I'm very bad at eyeballing stuff. I sewed along the top edge, going over the straps a few times. And then I trimmed the seam allowance and snipped the curved edges and turned it right side out to see how cute it turned out. I repeated the whole process with the body's back pieces. And then I pinned and sewed and then serged the side bodice seams. You're supposed to press the bodice now, but I decided to proceed to the skirt and press it later with some other stuff that needs it. I placed all 4 previously serged pocket pieces 10 cm from the top edge of the skirt and pinned them, and then I stitched them in place and serged the entire side edges. I pressed the pocket pieces to the opposite side, and while I was there, I also finally pressed the top edge of the bodice. I placed the skirt front on the skirt backs and pinned at the sides and around the pockets, and then stitched it the same way. I then made 2 rows of gathering stitches at the top of the skirt and started gathering it until the width matched the bodice. Let me just tell you, it's a lot of gathering. Next time I would consider using less material because the dress turned out way fuller than I expected.
1 eternity later.
When it was finally gathered enough, I pinned the bodice and the skirt together and sewed it together. Next I removed the gathering stitches and then serged it. There is something very satisfying in serging a gathered fabric. Also, I didn't show you this, but I serged the entire center back edges as well at this point. I pressed the gathers and I decided to also press the hem by folding it 1 cm twice, so it's easier to hem the dress later when it's already all sewn. It was time for the zip, which is the step I always dread the most. So I pinned one side of it on one side of the dress and then stitched it in place using an invisible zip foot. I closed the zip and made a little snip where the waist seam is to try and match it on the other side. Then I opened it again and pinned the other side, making sure I matched the snip with the waist seam as well as I could. After I stitched it as well, I folded the facing over, stitched it in place using the regular zip foot and turned it right side out, and then I could stitch the backs together from the zip to the bottom. I hemmed the entire bottom, which, having pressed it earlier, was super quick and super easy, and as the last touch I top stitched the top edge of the bodice. Next time though, I would consider understitching it earlier instead to get a more clean and elegant look, at least in my opinion. and the dress was ready. What do you think? Personally, I really like it. It's not really an everyday dress for me, at least not with this length and in this fabric, but I love how it fits and what great layering options it gives. I'm sure I will use this pattern again. I love that it is so simple and basic, so there is a lot of room to play with it. Next time maybe I will make it shorter and add a slit. Let me know if you tried this pattern and if you had any problems with it, if you tried any variations, or maybe if you have some tips. Anyway, I think that's it from me today, so see you in the next one. Bye!